The upcoming season has everything it takes to be one of the most intense ever experienced by the fans of the Californian franchise. After months of speculation, rumors, and discreet meetings behind the scenes, the long-awaited confirmation has finally taken shape. Seth Curry is on his way to the roster. The official announcement should be made within a few days, as soon as management resolves the issue still surrounding Jonathan Kuminga, whose future has been the subject of internal debates for months. This signing goes beyond simply adding another reliable shooter to the squad. It is a strategic piece capable of profoundly transforming the team's offensive identity. For years, analysts considered Seth a consistent three-point shooter, with averages around 41% or 42%. However, the actual numbers revealed that his accuracy surpasses 45%, a level that places him dangerously close to his brother, Stephen Curry. This means the franchise will have in its hands something extremely rare: two almost unstoppable perimeter specialists playing together. For the fans, this prospect is equivalent to a constant spectacle. Few times in sports history have two brothers, both renowned for their efficiency from long range, shared the same court on the same team. Just imagining them lined up together already creates expectations of historic nights, capable of igniting any game with an avalanche of three-pointers. This dynamic not only brings entertainment, but also forces opponents to completely rethink their defensive approach. The trauma of last season still echoes. In decisive matchups against the Minnesota Timberwolves, it became evident how much the lack of consistency on the perimeter weighed. Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Jerome Robinson, Buddy Hield, and even young Brandon Podziemski felt the burden of responsibility in high-pressure moments. There were even occasions when Draymond Green, unreliable in this area, attempted shots from outside in a desperate effort to save the team. None of it was enough. The consequence was clear. Stephen Curry, alone, could not bear the weight of being the only reliable long-distance threat. Now, with Seth by his side, this problem finds an immediate solution. Imagine a scenario where Stephen is relentlessly marked, suffocated by defenders like Osar Thompson or Kelly Oubre Jr., tracking his every move. Before, that was almost a death sentence for the offense. Now, ball movement can find Seth, who, left open on the perimeter, becomes the lethal weapon that was missing. This simple possibility could completely alter the narrative of a playoff series. But management didn't stop at bringing in Seth. Other pieces are also on the table to complete the puzzle. Gary Payton II is expected to regain space. Negotiations are ongoing with DeAnthony Melton, and veterans like Al Horford could add experience. In addition, the two rookies recently selected in the draft offer new perspectives. One of them will likely go through a development period outside the league, while Will Richard should earn significant minutes in the G League. Another rookie, Tway, may sign a two-way contract and alternate between the main team and Santa Cruz, expanding the coaching staff's options. Despite the solid additions, one concern persists: the team's size. Currently, only Quinton Post surpasses the 7-0 mark. In matchups against opponents who exploit physical play in the paint, such as the Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rockets, and even the Dallas Mavericks, especially if Cooper Flagg consolidates himself as a key piece, this limitation could become a serious problem. Without robust reinforcements in the paint, the team risks being dominated in long series. This shortage leads management to consider immediate adjustments. The Kuminga case, then, becomes a turning point. If he doesn't fit into the short-term plan, a trade will be inevitable. There is willingness to sacrifice future draft picks in search of impact pieces. Names like Nick Richards, Royce O'Neal, and Ryan Dunn are circulating as realistic options to expand the rotation without compromising the budget. Another behind-the-scenes possibility includes a package involving Moody and Buddy Hield in exchange for Nikola Vucevic, an established and highly reliable center. The presence of a player like Vucevic alongside the Curry brothers would provide both a technical and emotional boost. His consistency in the paint, combined with his ability to serve as a screener in pick-and-roll plays, could transform the offensive dynamic. Imagine Stephen drawing the double team and finding Seth in the corner, ready to drain another three. That's the vision fueling both management and fans. This type of movement shows how determined the franchise is to turn expectation into reality. Time, however, is not on their side. Training camp is approaching, and the Kuminga impasse needs resolution. Fans are already showing impatience, tired of months of uncertainty that have cost precious opportunities. Emoni Bates, for example, could have been an interesting long-term bet but slipped away. The same happened with Thomas Bryant, though his case was quicker, as he signed with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The loss of Bates, in particular, brings frustration. He had the ideal traits for the franchise's playing style: versatility and reliable shooting. A former #1 prospect in his draft class, he is still only 21 years old and has plenty of room to grow. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia 76ers took a chance on him and could reap valuable rewards. For the Californians, what remains is the bitter taste of another wasted opportunity. This scenario highlights the cost of hesitation in such a competitive league. When a franchise shows uncertainty in its decisions, players and agents reconsider their interest in the project. And the NBA does not forgive this type of delay. Opportunities vanish as quickly as they appear. What remains, therefore, is solving the Kuminga puzzle before time runs out. If he fully embraces the project, he'll have space to prove his worth. If not, he'll become trade currency in pursuit of reinforcements that can ensure immediate competitiveness. The message with Seth's arrival is clear. The franchise wants to win now. There is no more room to rely on long development processes. The window is open, but not for long. After 2027, rebuilding will become inevitable. Until then, every decision will be calculated to maximize the chances of a championship. It is in this context of urgency that Seth takes on a role greater than simply being another addition. His arrival brutally changes the mathematics of opposing defenses. Until now, double-teaming Steven was the most efficient strategy, because his teammates rarely managed to punish that choice. Now, that resource becomes an enormous risk. Leaving Seth open is equivalent to conceding layup points in an elite game. It is a psychological shift that even precedes the technical impact, because rivals step on the court knowing that any rotation failure can come at a high cost. This transformation becomes even more significant when the possibility of adding Kai Sotto to the roster arises. Just the mention of his name has already triggered an explosion on social media and sparked global excitement. The Filipino center, standing 18 meters tall, is not just a physical resource. He carries a symbolic and cultural weight that transcends basketball. His entry into the team would represent not only the solution to the shortage in the paint, but also a historic gesture of representation. Kai is not limited to being just another big man occupying space near the rim. His modern game shows rare versatility for someone of his height. He knows how to position himself defensively, reads the game well, and can space the floor with mid-range shots. In a scheme that prioritizes speed, movement, and collective intelligence, that is pure gold. Instead of locking up the offense, he would become another cog capable of creating space for shooters. The combination of Seth and Steven on the perimeter is already a nightmare for opponents. Now, add to that a young, athletic center with a dominant presence in the paint. This configuration would turn the team into a nearly unsolvable tactical enigma. Against teams like the Denver Nuggets, who have a colossus such as Nikola Jokic, relying solely on Quinton Post is risky. But with Kai, the franchise would at least have a defensive anchor to compete on equal terms, in addition to more power on the boards, something that was missing last season. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect is the cultural impact Kai would bring. The Bay Area is home to one of the largest Filipino communities outside the Philippines. His arrival would create an immediate emotional bridge with this audience, transforming games into celebrations of identity and belonging. For millions of Filipinos spread around the world, seeing him in uniform for one of the NBA's most renowned franchises would be a source of collective pride. The effect would be felt in the stands, on TV broadcasts, in the Asian market, and even in jersey sales. The executives know this. In marketing terms, Kai's presence would be a gold mine. But unlike other moves motivated solely by commercial factors, here there is balance between spectacle and sporting need. The team does not need an empty symbol, but rather someone who can solve real problems. And Kai, at the same time, meets both demands. He fills the technical gap and projects the brand globally. His journey up to this point further reinforces this narrative. From an early age, he left the comfort of home to seek development in more competitive leagues. He spent time in Australia, where he faced the physical pace of oceanic basketball, and more recently shined in Japan's B-League, showing progress at every stage. Everywhere he went, his resilience and maturity stood out. That turned him into an inspiration for young Filipino athletes and also for all those who dream of challenging limits. Inside a locker room that needs renewed energy, Kai can be the spark that infects the group. He doesn't just arrive to play, but to represent. The mentality of fighting against adversity, carrying the expectations of millions, and still staying focused on development is something that can be absorbed by younger teammates and even veterans. This collective energy is vital in seasons where the margin for error is almost non-existent. If Seth is the immediate reinforcement that solves the spacing problem, Kai may be the piece that finally balances the rotation. Together, they represent the natural evolution of a team that has already proven over the last decade to be capable of reinventing itself when many doubted. This potential partnership brings back the sense that the team still has fuel to compete for championships, even with the shadows of rebuilding approaching. Returning to the Kuminga dilemma, it is inevitable to notice how he is at the center of all these moves. His permanence or departure could open space to make the arrival of a consolidated center or even Kai viable. If he decides to embrace the project, he will have to deal with immediate pressure, with no time for slow maturation. If traded, he will need to bring back pieces that can make an impact from day one. There is no middle ground. This is the crossroads the front office finds itself in. Every choice made now will have direct consequences over the next 2 years. And that is precisely what makes this moment so tense. It is not just about planning the present, but about deciding what will be the last great breath of a historic generation. Meanwhile, rivals are watching. Coaches of other teams are already beginning to rethink their game plans. They know how exhausting it is to guard Steven for an entire series. The constant effort of chasing him through cuts, dealing with his endless movement, and trying to contest improbable shots is already torture. Now, imagining that same effort multiplied by Seth's presence is a cruel scenario. Any distraction becomes a basket. And if we still add an imposing center in the paint, opposing defenses are forced to completely redesign their strategies. What used to be about suffocating Steven and accepting others' mistakes now becomes a puzzle with multiple pieces. This psychological pressure, which comes even before the ball is tipped, can decide games before the clock even starts running. It is inevitable, therefore, to compare this configuration to the franchise's peak in previous years, when offensive spacing and collective confidence created an almost invincible aura. It is not about repeating formulas, but about reinventing intimidation. Two elite brothers on the perimeter and a global symbol in the paint may restore to the team the factor that makes rivals step onto the court already feeling that the mission will be impossible. The narrative off the court also cannot be ignored. The NBA is built on stories that go beyond the game. Two brothers recognized worldwide playing together is already, in itself, a powerful storyline. Add to that the impact of a young Filipino carrying millions of expectations, and we have one of the most fascinating stories in recent years. If on the court the technical impact is evident, off the court the effect can be even more transformative. The arrival of Seth and the possible signing of Kai Sotto create a storyline that blends family, culture, identity, and sport into a single narrative. The NBA has always valued stories that transcend the game, and few combinations could offer something so rich. It's not just a matter of numbers or victories, but of legacy and representation. For the older fans, who have followed every step of the franchise's rise, this season represents a kind of last dance. They know the window for championships won't remain open much longer, and that's why every game, every decision, and every detail will be lived with doubled intensity. The simple anticipation of seeing the Curry brothers sharing the court has already become fuel for endless debates in forums, podcasts, and roundtables. Younger fans, on the other hand, see in this moment a unique opportunity to witness something historic. Many grew up hearing about Stephen's magic, but now they will have the chance to see the duo working side by side, creating plays that may become a reference for future generations. At the same time, the global youth, especially in the Philippines, identify with Kai as an example that the impossible can indeed be achieved. The reflection of this behind the scenes is already palpable. The demand for tickets has increased, orders for jerseys with Seth's name skyrocketed even before the official announcement, and the mere possibility of Kai wearing the uniform made digital engagement numbers explode. This is not just about basketball, but about a cultural phenomenon that could redefine the franchise's image before the world. From a sporting standpoint, the issue is clear. The team needs balance. Last season left scars that cannot be ignored. The lack of consistency on the perimeter exposed fragility in decisive moments, and the absence of physical presence in the paint proved costly against stronger opponents. Now, with Seth solving the first part of the equation and Kai potentially addressing the second, the scenario changes completely. At this point, Kuminga's dilemma returns to center stage. Management knows it cannot afford to carry doubts throughout the season. Either he takes on the starring role expected of him, or he will become a trade chip to secure players who can deliver immediate impact. His youth still attracts interest from other franchises, but the time to prove his worth is running out quickly. If a trade happens, options such as Nikola Vucevic, Royce O'Neal, or Nick Richards could be explored. None of them would represent an explosive marketing move like Kai's arrival would, but all would bring the solidity missing in the paint. The simple addition of a reliable center would already shift the roster's balance, allowing the Curry brothers and the rest of the perimeter to perform without so much pressure. In practice, the expectation is for intense adjustments. The coaching staff is already studying different lineups to maximize Seth's potential. There are scenarios where he could start alongside Stephen, forming a lethal backcourt. In others, he could be used as a luxury sixth man, leading the second unit and ensuring the offense doesn't collapse when the star rests. This versatility gives the staff a margin of maneuver that simply didn't exist before. If Kai joins the group, the possibilities expand even further. He could serve as a defensive anchor in traditional lineups or even integrate smaller lineups, spacing the floor and offering creative options. His mobility allows the team not to lose speed, even with a 7.2 player on the court. This adaptability would be crucial in an increasingly unpredictable and dynamic league. The psychological impact on opponents is also immeasurable. Defenders already enter exhausted at the thought of chasing Stephen and Seth for 48 minutes. Now adding a giant who protects the rim and also participates in the offense makes the challenge nearly unbearable. The accumulated wear and tear over the course of a playoff series could be the difference between advancing or being eliminated. Moreover, the franchise knows it needs to reclaim the aura of intimidation that marked its glory years. Back then, it wasn't just talent that won, but the sense of inevitability. Teams stepped onto the court believing they were already at a disadvantage. That is the mindset the Californians want to recover, and every move by management points in that direction. In the locker room, chemistry will also play a crucial role. Seth brings a mindset of perseverance, built over years of having to prove his worth across different franchises. He never had an easy path, and that turned him into a resilient competitor. His discipline can influence the younger players and balance the environment in tense moments. Kai, meanwhile, arrives carrying not only the weight of expectations but also the inspiration of millions. His hunger to prove that he belongs on the world's biggest basketball stage can be contagious. The veterans, on the other hand, know they are facing one of their last opportunities to fight for titles. This awareness creates a collective urgency, capable of uniting the group around the same goal. There will be no room for distractions or selfishness. Each player will understand that time is short, and that every sacrifice can mean the difference between lifting a trophy or being remembered only in passing. Meanwhile, the league watches closely. Direct rivals like the Nuggets, Thunder, Rockets, and Mavericks are already calculating how to face this new version of the Californian franchise. Everyone knows that the Curry brothers together are an unsolvable problem, but the question is whether there will be enough support in the paint. If Kai really arrives, or if a proven center takes on that role, the balance of power could shift. The NBA's narratives thrive on contrasts. On one side, rebuilding teams betting on the future. On the other, established powerhouses fighting for every victory. This Californian franchise right now finds itself between these two worlds, struggling to keep alive the flame of past glory while trying to avoid the inevitable process of renewal. The upcoming season, therefore, is not just another one. It's the chance to write one last great chapter before reconstruction takes over, and every decision made now will carry historic weight. Seth is already a reality. Kai could be next. Kuminga is the question mark. The team's destiny will depend on how these pieces fit together. What unfolds before us is more than just a basketball season. It is a story about reinvention, about brothers defying the odds, about a young giant who could transform not only a team, but also the culture around it. It is the last great breath of a generation that made history and now refuses to accept the end without first trying to write one more chapter of glory. And you, who have followed this journey so far, are part of this story too. Your voice, your opinion, and your presence are the fuel that keeps this project alive. So if you believe this franchise still has what it takes to fight at the highest level, show your support right now. Leave your like to strengthen this content, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates, and turn on the notification bell to receive firsthand all the analyses, behind-the-scenes stories, and hot news yet to come. This season promises to be historic, and you will follow every detail along with us.